Welcome back, my perceptive darlings. Did you truly believe the real decisions were being made in Hawksmere? No. Villages are for suffering, valleys are for consequences. But power, true power, prefers polished tables, clean hands, and windows that overlook someone else's labor. Today, we leave the mud and the blood behind and ascend into the boardroom. You see, there is a particular cruelty reserved for rooms where nothing appears cruel at all, where catastrophes are discussed in measured tones, where lives become variables, loyalty becomes leverage, and fire, green, impossible fire, is reduced to a line item and a projected yield. In this chapter, we finally meet the architects, not the soldiers, not the bullies, but the minds. The ones who smile while sharpening instruments, the ones who believe themselves above superstition, emotion, and consequence, while quietly planning to become gods by committee. Listen carefully, my loves, because the most dangerous whispers are never shouted. They are minuted.
Chapter 4. Whispers in the Boardroom. The distance between Hawksmere and the true seat of the Carthage Syndicate's power was not merely measured in miles, but in dimensions of thought. The valley was a place of raw stone, sighing forests, and human passions worn close to the bone. The Syndicate's heart, however, beat in a realm of calculated abstraction, where people and places were reduced to entries in a ledger, and even cataclysmic green fire was logged as anomalous energetic yield. That heart was the boardroom, a chamber on the top floor of a fortified trading house in Kingston upon Hull. The room overlooked a bustling port where syndicate cranes swung with metronomic precision, unloading spices from the Levant and loading wool for Flanders. Here, the smell was not of damp earth and wood smoke, but of ozone from the adjacent alchemical laboratory, beeswax on polished mahogany, and the faint metallic scent of ambition stripped of all sentiment. It was here, 3 days after the signing at Hawksmere, that the architects of the Crimson Mechanism gathered to assess their newest acquisition. The Conclave Four figures occupied the room, a study in controlled power. At the head of the oval table sat Lady Constance de Lacy. She was a widow who had not inherited fragility, but a shipping empire, which she had since expanded with a mind as sharp and unsentimental as a diamond-tipped drill. In her 50s, her beauty was a forbidding architecture of silver-streaked hair swept back from a flawless, cold face. Her eyes, the color of a North Sea winter, missed nothing. She represented the Syndicate's circulatory system, the ships, the caravans, the relentless flow of capital and goods. To her right sat Master Silas Vane, recently returned from the north. The moorland chill seemed to have seeped into his bones, making his already precise movements even more economized. He was the Syndicate's foremost tactician of acquisition, a man who could unravel a lineage's worth of debt and re-spool it into a noose. To Lady Constance's left fidgeted Dr. Ignatius Fray. Gaunt, with fingers perpetually stained by acids and rare earths, he was the intellect, the visionary. The world was not a place of people and politics to him, but a vast, unsolved equation. The Viridian essence was not a power. It was the key variable he had spent a lifetime searching for. He tapped a crystalline lens against the table, its click a nervous, rhythmic counterpoint. At the foot of the table, almost blending into the rich shadow of the wood paneling, sat the man known only as the Factor. Of middling height and utterly forgettable features, he was the Syndicate's central nervous system, its intelligence gatherer, its resolver of asymmetric impediments. His presence meant a subject had moved from theoretical investment to active and potentially messy operation. Item 4, Lady Constance's voice cut the air, cool and clear. Hawksmere. The acquisition is formalized, debts leveraged, contract signed, local authority pacified. She slid a copy of the signed document with its new clause, 7B, toward the center of the table. Vane, report on the condition of the asset. Vane steepled his fingers. The asset is physically stable, though scarred by the prior energetic release. Morale is low, hunger, was acute. Our initial infusion of goods has induced a state of grateful dependency. The human component is pliable. The land component, however, presents the predicted unique factors. Dr. Fry leaned forward, his eyes alight. The essence, the reports of the luminous event, were not exaggerated? They were not, Vane confirmed. The geological scarring is consistent with a massive, localized discharge of biogeotheric energy. The force was sufficient to break a military siege. The potential yield, as you have theorized, Doctor, is transformative. And the local expertise? Lady Constance asked, her gaze falling on Clause 7b. The de Clairvaux woman is cleverer than her predecessor, Jocelyn, less brutal, more strategic. She attempted a defensive gambit. A faint, approving flicker touched Vane's lips, the respect of one chess player for another's unexpected move. She embedded the Thorn Son into the agreement as master of terrain, granting him veto power over all subterranean activity, a move to obstruct under the guise of safety. The Factor spoke for the first time, his voice a soft, neutral rasp, like pages turning in a soundproofed library. Aemon Thorn, son of Owen Thorn, subject of the original title clearance. Profile: intelligent, intuitive, physically resilient, deeply connected to the locale, motivated by filial vengeance and a primitive animistic loyalty to the land. He is the emotional and practical linchpin of the local resistance. Is he manageable? Lady Constance's question was devoid of moral weight. She was asking if a component was compatible with the machine. Currently, his value as a pacifier and a guide outweighs his cost as an obstacle, the Factor said. The population reveres him. Removing him prematurely would destabilize the pacification. However, his veto power is a variable. He must be steered, or his authority must be ethically circumvented. Steer him first, Lady Constance decided. A guided asset is more efficient than a removed one. Fry, your assessment of the integration timeline given this new variable. The blueprint of Dominion. Dr. Fry became animate, unrolling a large schematic from a leather tube. It was a masterpiece of esoteric engineering, covered in precise notations, diagrams of interlocking gears, crystalline arrays, and pipes of silver and glass. At its center was a stylized representation of a mountain, with veins of green light being drawn into a complex clockwork heart. This was the Crimson Mechanism, Phase 1. The master of terrain is not a setback. He is a data source, Fry exclaimed, his voice feverish. Think of him as a living seismograph, a crude one, calibrated by superstition and trauma, but a sensor nonetheless. His instincts, where he allows drilling, where he forbids it, will map the stress points of the nexus faster than our own calculations. His prohibitions are a negative image of the essence's flow. He pointed a stained finger at the schematic. Phase 1 is not extraction, it is auscultation. We build the tympanum, a series of harmonic resonators sunk into key geologic strata. It will listen to the land's pulse, quantify the essence's frequency and amplitude. The Thorn Man's safe zones will be our guide to where the pulse is calmest, where we can insert the needle without provoking a systemic rejection. He meant another earthquake. Lady Constance studied the blueprint. And once you have listened, then we design Phase 2, the heart, a reciprocating engine of alchemical geometry that doesn't take the energy, but persuades the planetary field to transmute base matter around it into pure, usable force. Self-sustaining, limitless, it would render coal, wind, water, all of it, obsolete. It wouldn't just power forges and ships, Lady Constance. It could, in theory, halt decay, sustain life indefinitely. It is the bridge between gross matter and etheric potential. His eyes glowed with a zealot's fire. The scope of the ambition settled over the room, a silence more profound than any lack of sound. This was beyond wealth. This was playing at godhood with a slide rule and a crucible. The risks? Lady Constance's voice was a whip crack, bringing them back to earthly constraints. Fry's enthusiasm dampened. The nexus is delicate. The prior release was a sympathetic vibration, agitated by poison and violence. Our approach must be harmonic, subtle. A misaligned resonator, a calculation error in the frequency, could trigger a cascading discharge. Not as large as the one that shattered the army, but potentially enough to collapse the entire valley into a sinkhole, destroying the asset and all our work. Which is why we have a master of terrain, Vane interjected smoothly. To keep us from the obvious cliffs, your job, Doctor, is to find the safe path up the mountain he insists cannot be climbed. The instrument of chaos. The Factor's soft voice intruded. There remains the other instrument, the de Mowbray heir. He is broken, but his breakage has a specific shape. Lady Constance's lip curled in faint distaste. That instrument is spent. It served its purpose in applying blunt force and identifying the nexus through its failures. It is scrap. Broken tools can still cut if you grasp the sharp end, the Factor persisted, unperturbed. Jocelyn de Mowbray's madness has a focus, terror of the green fire, and blame placed upon us. He is a liability, yes, but a liability can be repositioned, a letter from a concerned pious cousin to the bishop's court or the sheriff's traveling justice, questioning the spiritual and civic stability of a region ruled by a woman who consorts with earth witches. It creates a background hum of doubt. It makes the secular and religious authorities grateful for our stabilizing commercial presence. It is a low-cost, deniable pressure. Vane considered this. It was wasteful sentiment to keep a broken tool, but waste was inefficiency. Can his output be controlled? His madness is the control, the Factor said. He believes we will wake the devil. We can feed that belief, direct its narrative. He needs only to be cleaned up, supplied with parchment and a safe place to write his warnings. His noble name, however tarnished, still carries a vestige of weight. He becomes a weather vane of dissent we can point in any useful direction. After a moment, Lady Constance gave a minute, regal nod. A negligible ongoing cost for a potential strategic distraction. Proceed. But he is to be a shadow. I do not want his stench of failure on our official ledger. The decision was made with less deliberation than ordering a new inkwell. The final matter, Vane said, turning his flinty gaze to the Factor. Eyes and ears within. The clause makes the thorn man the point of all contact. We need the context around the point. The Factor permitted himself a microscopic smile. Integration is underway. The household is grateful for the food. Gratitude breeds lowered guards. The steward, Tom, is competent but overwhelmed. His focus is on physical stores, not loyalties. The priest, Clement, is morally adrift, seeking a new dogma to cling to. The maid, Bess, is the lady's shadow, but shadows can be cast by other lights. She is a nurturer. Her weakness is compassion for suffering. He paused. The master analyst. The Thorn Man himself is now isolated by his new role. He stands between his people and us, between the land and our machines. It is a position of immense strain. Strain seeks release, in confidence, in frustration. We will place an ear where such whispers gather. See to it, Lady Constance commanded. Weekly reports, not just on geological progress, but on social tectonics. Morale is a strata to be mapped as surely as limestone. The meeting was adjourned. Lady Constance departed to review a shipping manifest for Anatolian mercury, essential for Fray's experiments. Dr. Fray scurried back to his lab, already murmuring calculations about harmonic resonance in quartz. The Factor melted into the corridor, a dozen quiet instructions already issuing from his mind. Silas Vane remained. He walked to the vast window, overlooking the ordered chaos of the port. Hawksmere was a tiny, troublesome spark on a distant, dark hill. His task was not to stamp it out, but to bank its heat, to channel its strange fire into the waiting, cold furnace of the mechanism. Aliénor de Clairvaux thought she had made a clever move. She did not understand she was already inside the machine, and her every effort to resist only helped wind the mainspring tighter. V. The whisper takes root. Back in Hawksmere, the abstract decisions of the boardroom manifested as quiet, corrosive realities. The first whisper was a gift. A syndicate carter, a man with a kind face and tired eyes, sought out Bess as she distributed ladles of thick porridge in the hall. He pressed a small parcel into her hands, a pot of fine honey, a skein of soft blue yarn, a silver thimble. "From my wife," he said with a practiced, humble shrug. She heard of your kindness to all here. Said a healer's hands deserve a bit of sweetness. The note, in clumsy script, sold the story perfectly. It played directly on Bess's core identity, creating a thread of personal obligation, a tiny, warm crack in the wall of unified defiance. The second whisper was a donation. A syndicate clerk visited Father Clement, bringing a sack of lime for chapel plaster and linen for a new altar cloth. He spoke with reverent knowledge of the syndicate's philanthropic works, the hospital in York, the school for friars. He asked thoughtful, flattering questions about Clement's views on man's dominion over nature. He left the priest spiritually nauseated, wrestling with the horrifying notion that the enemy might not be godless, but might worship a god of ledger books and leveraged influence. The third whisper was a purpose. Master Gilda, under Aemon's watchful eye, needed a reliable pair of hands. Young Will, desperate to prove he was no longer the terrified boy from the platform, volunteered. Gilda was brisk but not unkind. She showed him how to clean the brass instruments without scratching, how to log soil samples in a numbered ledger. She praised his careful work. She gave him a vital task, to be the daily runner between the survey tent and the keep, carrying the approved drilling plans from Aemon to Tom. It made Will feel valued, integral. It also made him a neutral conduit through which the keep's rhythms and the survey team's frustrations could be observed. And Aemon, in the survey tent, faced the relentless, polite pressure of Master Gilda's science. She presented him with seismic refraction models, assay reports showing promising trace elements. She spoke of harmonic strata and conductive ore bodies, a language designed to intimidate and overwhelm his tactile, experiential knowledge. "Your caution is noted, Master Thorn," she said one afternoon, pointing to a map where Aemon had again vetoed a drill site near the ancient oaks. "But my calculations indicate the highest probability for a major essence conduit is here. The arboreal growth may be a biomarker. To not sample is to ignore empirical data." Aemon placed his finger on a different spot, a steep, rocky slope. "Sample there." "Why?" "The topography is unfavorable. The substrate is granite." "Because," Aemon said, meeting her eyes, "the stone has a hollow heart there. Your drill will find an empty space. It will prove your instruments can hear the shape of the land." He was offering her a victory, but on his terms, a validation of her tools, directed by his deeper sense. Gilda stared, trying to decode it. A void was data. "Very well. We will drill at your hollow heart, but I must insist on the oak site next. We cannot be vetoed by dendrology." The tension was a constant, low-grade hum. Aemon was playing a desperate game of misdirection, using their hunger for data to lead them away from the true sensitive nodes. But Gilda was learning. She was correlating his refusals. She was building her own map, and it was slowly, inevitably, converging on the truth. The unseen wire. The final whisper was silent. It arrived in a crate marked "Spare Theodolite Parts." Among the brass fittings was a device of Dr. Fry's design, an acoustic listening tube of stretched bladder and braided horsehair meant to capture subterranean vibrations. The factor had seen a more immediate application. That night, a figure moved through the lower bailey. It was not a stranger. It was a face the guards nodded to wearily, a man who had been at Hawksmere for years, a quiet soul good with animals and stonework. He had reason to be near the storehouse, to check the new chickens, to tend a damp patch in the barracks wall. In the deep shadow of the cold forge, he met a figure from outside the walls. No words. A heavy purse changed hands. And the listening device. The man from Hawksmere slipped back inside. With the silence of a ghost, he ascended not to the barracks, but to the old gatehouse tower, to the small room given to the master of terrain. The door was locked. From his tunic, he drew a thin strip of horn, a tavern trick from a youth spent in less loyal company. The latch lifted with a soft click. Aemon slept the profound sleep of exhaustion. On his table lay his knife, a half-carved badger, and the pouch holding the green stone. The intruder did not go near the bed. He went to the outer wall, feet thick. From his sack came a masonry drill with a syndicate-tempered bit. He worked for an hour, the grind muffled by a blanket, the hole deep and narrow, angled toward the room's center. Into it, he fed the end of the acoustic tube, packing it with mortar. The other end, the resonator, he hid behind a perfectly replaced loose stone. He left, relocking the door, and vanished back into the keep's fabric. The silver purse beneath his straw mattress was heavy. The syndicate's food filled his children's bellies. Their silver would buy wool for winter cloaks. The lady's cause was just, but justice was a cold companion. The mechanism offered survival. In the boardroom far away, a new circuit was complete. They were no longer just around Hawksmere. They were in its walls, in its trust. The whispers could now begin in earnest, traveling from a stone room down a hidden tube, carrying the secrets of a keeper to those who sought to make the world a machine.
And there it is, the truth laid bare in beeswax and brass. While Hawksmere tends its wounds and clings to fragile hope, the Syndicate does what it does best. It integrates. It does not conquer with banners or burn with armies. It listens. It feeds. It complements. It helps. And all the while, it threads itself through kindness, hunger, gratitude, and fear, until resistance begins to feel unreasonable. Notice how no one needed to be dragged screaming into betrayal. No grand villain speeches, no blood spilled, just honey, just linen, just a sense of usefulness offered to the lonely and the weary. And poor Aemon, standing alone at the fulcrum of land and machine, believing vigilance is enough, never suspecting the walls themselves have begun to listen. This is how empires truly advance, my darlings. Not by crushing hearts outright, but by convincing them they have no other choice. Sleep well if you can. Because the mechanism no longer waits outside the gate. Until the next indiscretion, this has been Lady Aurelia Ravenshade, reminding you that survival is often just collaboration wearing a softer name.